All right, so we've already talked about linear equations, so stuff like y equals 2x plus 1. And we've also talked about cutting that domain and range to only show a certain spot. So let's do this from negative 0.5 to 0. So I'm going to do negative 0.5 is, let me get my, let me hide this. Where is my, there we go. Okay, so is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 0. Right there, whoops. And then I have that like that, there we go. So I just cut off the domain between here and here. So negative 0.5 to 0. All right, so that's how you cut a line. And then we've also done absolute value graphs. So y equals the absolute value of x is a V-shaped graph. Remember to flip it upside down. You just put a negative out front. Let's say I want to move it up for my roof. Oops, lights out. Let's say I want to move it up to, make a roof or something on a building. I'm just going to do plus, 10. And you can move your screen around a little bit. So then I move it up 10. Okay. We also talked about moving it left and right and cutting the domain and range. So let's say I only want it between, let's do a range. So I want it only from here up. So that would be 8 to 10 on the y's. So 8 is less than or equal to y is less than or equal to 10. So maybe that's all I want on that. Okay, so we did talk about those things. So make sure you review video number 1 if you need help. All right, so what I want to talk about in video number 2 is quadratics. And quadratics are anything that has an x squared in it. So to get the x squared, you hit the a squared, and that takes you to the exponent. All right, just like absolute value graphs, you can shift these things up and down, move them left and right. Okay, so we've got plus 1. I moved it up 1. Plus 3. I moved it up 3. Let's say I want to move it down. So if I'm adding 3, I would actually subtract 3 to move it down. Okay, so practice some of these. So just start typing in y equals x squared. I'm going to copy that so that I can just, do it multiple times. And let's shift it around a little bit. So maybe your building has a design on it or something. So -2 and then -5. And you can switch it around. Okay, let's do +1 right there. All right, now, how do you flip these around? So let's say you don't want a U. Let's say you want it to be arched, because a lot of buildings have the arch going not this way, the other way. So all you do is take a negative out front. So put the negative out front. Do you see that? That one flipped. And that created a cool design. Negative, negative, right there. Okay? Now, if you're scrolling around your screen at all and you lose like all of the numbers, you can just hit the home button and it takes you back to right where you can see. And sometimes I zoom in so that I can see the ones. I don't know, it just depends. So sometimes it's nice that you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. But you can do whatever you need to do. Okay? So let's go back. I just hit the home. So let's go back to just a y equals x squared again. Okay. So we know adding a plus sign on the outside shifts it up and a negative sign on the outside shifts it down. Okay. But how do we move it left and right? So to move it left and right, you have to put parentheses around your x value. Okay. And then you put your numbers on the inside if you want to move it left and right. Okay. So left is negative. So you would think that you would do a negative number, but watch what happens when I do -2 in there. It didn't move that quadratic left. It actually moved it right. And that's because it's inside parentheses. You would have to end up solving it and it would switch the sign. Okay. So let me copy this now. Make sure you are putting parentheses around your x, right? And let's go +2. So when you have parentheses and there's a number on the inside, it's the opposite of what you think. So when you see a -2, you would think it would go left 2, but it actually goes right 2, okay? And when it says +2, you would think it would go right 2, but it actually goes left 2, okay? So those are different ways that you can use quadratics, okay? The other thing that you can do, so y equals x squared. The other thing that you can do is you can flatten it, or you can make it skinnier. So if you want to make it skinnier, like let's say it has to be, it needs to be more narrow for your picture, put a whole number out front. See how I just made that skinnier? What if I put a 33? See how I'm making it skinnier? 333. Okay, so the bigger number you get right there, the skinnier it gets. No number, this is just the parent quadratic function, the normal one. Now, how do you get it to go wider? You do a fraction. So like 1 divided by 3, or 1 divided by 4, or 1 divided by 10, or 1 divided by 100. You can barely tell that it's a quadratic, okay? So those are different ways that you can actually change the shape of it. So here we go. Let's talk about all of the things that you can do as a review. So if you put a negative out front, you flip it. If you put parentheses around your x, the inside number is the opposite of what you think. So if you add 5, it actually went left 5. But if you subtract 5, it actually goes right 5. Okay? And then you can put a number out back also. So you can do +4. Notice that moved it up 4. Or you could do -4, which, let me get that over here. It moved it down 4. So those are all of the basic shifts right there. Okay? And then right there, if I wanted to make that thing skinnier, put a whole number right there. Okay? If I wanted to make it flatter and slow it down, I would put a fraction right there. And you can do any fraction you want. So you don't have to do 1. You can do 2/3. Okay? Or you could do 2/11. Or you could do 2/25. Anything you want right there. Sometimes you just have to make it up to make it fit. Okay, so how do you cut domain and range? Y equals x squared. Okay, let's cut domain and range. Let's hit the home button so it goes back to home. What if I only want this? Let me flip it upside down. And let me move it up to, I don't know, 4. What if I only want it from here to here? Okay, so you have 2 options to cut it. You can do a domain from -2 to 2. So domain means x values. Okay, so bracket -2 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 2. Okay, so I could do that. And that leaves it right there. So I did my domain. Okay, now let me get rid of that. So practice it. Pause the video and practice a little bit, okay? All right, now I can do the same thing. If I only want it from here to here, I can also cut it from 0 to 4 in my range. So 0 is less than or equal to y is less than or equal to 4. So sometimes you have 2 options to do the same thing. Sometimes you can only do domain, and sometimes you can only do range. Okay? So practice around with this, and I'm going to leave this video at quadratics only, and then in the next video we will do circles. All right, good luck. Go ahead and start making a design.